So, hey there, folks. I'm Chris Burkhardt, president and founder of Placers. I'm here as I am almost every week with Brian Saleo. Brian leads all things related to our customers at Placers. And this is How We Solve Problems series. It's kind of just short form video or audio where we answer questions and provide input on the problems that we solve for customers. Brian, welcome, first of all. How you been, brother?
Doing great. How you doing, Chris?
I never had a bad day in my life.
Oh, stop.
It seems like we talk all the time about understanding trends in the workforce and workplace. And it's something that I know you and I are spending a lot of time consulting with customers about, frankly, because it seems like workforce realities seem to be accelerating and evolving at the fastest clip I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So it's just like all at once this is happening. And I know we wanted to kind of have a discussion about return to work trends.
Mm-hmm.
This is mid-June if you're listening, and it seems to be in every article. It seems to be in every session that you listen to. I know for us, we've been hybrid and remote and flexible for quite some time. And I know that as a leadership team, we're determined to leverage flexibility as a means of differentiating ourselves as a small business.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's got their thing. But it seems like a lot of businesses and leadership teams are in the planning and communication process with return to work. Any thoughts on what factors they should be thinking about as they evaluate their plans?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I think it's interesting that this phase of this whole process we've been going through for the last year and a half still seems to have caught everybody off guard, that it really, like you said, it accelerated. We're moving into the spring, and it's like, okay, people are starting to get vaccinated. This could be getting better soon. And somehow in May and June, it's like, the gas pedal went down. The CDC said, hey, we're going to loosen up restrictions. You're seeing states of emergencies lifted. So everything is coming to life. And I feel like businesses, once again, are a little bit unprepared for what's next. I read an article.
Bad in January and February. It's such a tale of two cities.
Yeah.
So I'll hand it back to you, but I kind of get it. Just like it has just swung like a very quick pendulum swing.
Yeah, I mean, according to a recent PricewaterhouseCoopers survey, 2 out of 5 companies still do not have a plan of action for return to work. So everybody is still catching up a little bit. And I think we're starting to dig into those issues a little bit, but it's also a very individualized problem. I mean, each business, there are different dynamics involved that you have to think about, whether you're working in close proximity to other people, whether the type of work you do requires in-person presence. So it's very much specific to a company as far as what your plan would look like.
It's very interesting. I also feel that the leadership teams are kind of setting a tone with this strategically. So like I said, Placers, well, we view this as a means of competitive advantage. Let's continue to embrace our existing flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Jamie Dimon with JP Morgan was very direct in some quotes recently talking about how they played nice during the pandemic and lost some business and that they're getting back to work. And then you've got Facebook that's announced you can work from home kind of indefinitely. And of course, there's everything in between. But I also think that leaders are looking strategically at their decision. And I'm not sure there's a question beyond that. Maybe you want to add to that or go in a different direction with our discussion. But it's also, I think, if you're making a list for your leadership team, it's where are you strategically and what are you trying to do with your workforce related to this situation, as there is a war for talent.
I think it's a question of trust more than anything else. I'm not sure as much as you want to, I'm not sure that leaders of a lot of businesses fully trust their people to be as productive in a remote environment as they would be in the office. And I think from my experience, I think we have people who are more productive in a remote environment. And I think we have other people who, whether it's they need that social interaction, they have distractions at home, they extend their hour lunch / nap to an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever it might be. I'm not sure that as leaders in an organization, we all trust the people that we have to work as hard and be as productive as they would be if they were in the office, and you can kind of keep an eye on them.
If you're making the list, guys, with points that we're talking about, this is a fascinating one because you, as a leader, is your organization mature enough to value outcomes versus the hour of work that you can see when you oversee someone, and do you have the capabilities to look at those outcomes, to measure things? Do your jobs have measurements like that? You bring up an excellent point. Some jobs view the job as you starting at 8 and ending at 5, not what you do that's productive during that time. So it's tough stuff. You study this stuff, but can you address the mindset of the workforce post-pandemic and its impact on returning to work plans?
So I feel like we're all very excited about the fact that the world's opening up and that we can go out and do some things that we couldn't do before, or we can do them without a mask on or without, keeping a certain distance and things like that. I still think there's a portion of the workforce that's still a little bit afraid, that's unsure of how safe things are. I still see people in environments where a mask wouldn't be required, but they're wearing one. And if you talk about it, they've been vaccinated, but they still feel like they need to protect themselves. And maybe we should have been protecting ourselves a little more all along. So I still think there's a portion of the workforce that's saying to themselves, hey, I'm not sure this is completely over yet. And this thing has launched a number of surprises on us in the past, and there could be another one coming. And then I think there's some of us that are just so excited that it seems like it's winding down, that, we're like a kid in a candy store and we just want to run around and do everything we used to be able to do and not be as careful maybe as we should be.
Well, that's a really different perspective. You can't help but internalize that where you are on that spectrum. I immediately went to, should I be wearing a mask? And then also seeing myself run around like a kid in the candy store. It's sort of a all in the same day kind of feeling. I guess time will change that. I mean, things have changed so fast that I can't even imagine, by we get to post Labor Day, what our view of all this is. There are different return to work models. What are you saying? What's commonplace? Even what do you like?
One thing I've seen on a pretty regular basis is the companies are sending out surveys of their people to find out how they're feeling. I think whenever you get the buy-in of the people that are going to be impacted by the decisions you make, the better off you have of getting them to accept changes or policy advancements. So I really think, a well-run organization will survey its team, see what they need as far as, working from home, being in the office, how they feel that they're more productive. You see a lot of organizations that are really embracing the idea of continuing to work remotely, or at least having some type of hybrid situation where people can elect to be in the office on certain days, or even once a month, or whatever it might be. I think we're going to get to a point where jobs that can be done remotely effectively probably will continue to stay remote a lot more so than they were pre-pandemic. And I also think you'll see organizations coming up with creative ways to get people together. maybe monthly sales meetings where all of your salespeople come into an office on a specific day, or offsite meetings where you get people together. Try and create a little bit of a balance between that social interaction and human contact that we all need, with the fact that we can operate in smaller footprints. We don't need to cram everybody into a building, and that it's not necessarily the way to be the most productive.
You know, I had a president say this to me yesterday. Part of the reason they're embracing the hybrid strategy is the sense that maybe the pandemic isn't completely over, like you talked about with the workforce, that perhaps it's the safest way to divide and conquer during a time. I mean, let's face it, a lot of shoes have dropped. I was taken aback because I haven't been thinking that way, but who would have thought any of this was possible? So I can't judge that thought and that management team. From a best practices with hybrid, which seems to be popular, one thing I noted is a couple of really big brand names were saying you can kind of, you can flex your time, but you can't flex a Monday or a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was very interesting. And I guess the premise was that, we want you to have some core hours, not only during the day, maybe a 9 to 3 core hour time, but we're viewing Tuesday through Thursday as our core hours. Mm-hmm. You may have seen that, but did you see any other variations that are worth mentioning?
I think a lot of it's about scheduling. People are being asked to schedule their time in the office. It's not like companies are saying you need to be in the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week. They're asking you to select specific days that you're going to be in the office so they can kind of monitor how many people they have working internally, or physically in the building. So I noticed that's one of the big trends that seems to be out there. You don't want your staff of 30 all coming into the office on Tuesday and then having nobody there the rest of the week.
Yeah, and that's obviously scheduling tools, technology to do so. All those things are new opportunities and new realities as you're now scheduling hoteling space or conference rooms, or as things are happening that way. It's hard not to talk about the human capital side of this, the people side of this. Plans are going to roll out, and human resources departments that have a seat at the table are probably driving a discussion about retention and turnover. What are your thoughts on that related to what's coming?
So I think a lot of the workforce prefers the remote or fully, or at least hybrid model. Employers may be able to attract new employees or keep their current employees by having policies in place that embrace that. So I think HR is going to push that issue that you need as a leader in an organization to make sure that your people are productive, but to the extent that you can allow them to work remotely, at least partially, if not completely, that's a selling feature now for a company. And I've noticed just when we recruit recruiters and I'm talking to people, one of the first questions a lot of them ask is, can this be fully remote? I really can't get into or don't want to get into an office every day. So, when you put together your list of things that prospective employees look for, salary, benefits, PTO, add to that list ability to work remotely, because a lot of people are now looking for that. And we've all experienced it over the last 12 months that it is possible.
And of course, if that is not your cup of tea, not your choice, you've got to understand strategically what you do best and what your differentiators are and how you're going to combat this. Mm-hmm. And that some of the workforce, as Brian's saying, now will forever look for employers that do offer some degree of flexibility. I think it's an interesting time and challenge. Anything else I've missed in my questions about this topic that would help someone who's, walking into a meeting tomorrow with their management team and they're going to finally nail this thing down? What else?
The one other thing I was thinking about is the financial impact of remote work, both for the company and for the worker. I feel like most of us are not filling up our gas tanks as often as we used to. We're not eating out at lunch as much as we probably were before because, we can be at home and make our own sandwich and stay here or microwave a meal or whatever. But also from an employer standpoint, as you go into more of a remote workforce, a smaller footprint for your office space probably is more workable now than it was before. You're going to save money on utilities and all those different things in terms of your overhead by not having as many people in the building. So I think there's an opportunity for financial savings for both companies and for employees, but then that may impact other businesses as well. People don't go out to eat as much, then restaurants suffer. If people aren't filling up their gas tanks as often, how does that impact the economy? So I think there's a lot of financial dynamics to it as well that we'll see that evolve over the next few months.
I agree. And I mean, as a leader, I like that employees gain in that way. That seems like a win-win.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting stuff. All right. Well, I think this is going to be an evolving story.
Yep.
Most businesses, I heard that, if you haven't come back, a lot are thinking July 1, some Labor Day, and even fewer January 1, but it's certainly going to be a topic of the summer. What I would say is if you listen to this and you feel like we missed a really good trend, or if you want to share your story, Brian will give his email in a second, but it's simple. I'm at chris@myplacers.com. You can find us on our website, myplacers.com. Brian can be reached at
bseleo@myplacers.com. That's BSELEYO.
Yeah. And I think that we've gathered this stuff from research, from conversations, for me, it's from discussions just the last little bit. So if we can pass some other stuff along, or if you have other questions, just let us know. But thanks for listening, and we'll come at you next week with the next topic.